Jesus girl. Jesus girl. Hey, it's the diary of a Jesus girl. Let the wings of the Spirit of the Lord just a swirl. You are in it, but you know you're not a part of this world. And for the swine, you should never cast your pearl. Yes, it's just the diary of a Jesus girl. The diary of a Jesus girl. Welcome to the Diary of a Jesus Girl podcast, where we discuss real-life issues of the committed Christian woman. This podcast will inspire you to love Jesus and impact lives like Jesus. And now it's time for your host, Crystal Day, award-winning author, speaker, and Christian coach.
So welcome to another episode of the Diary of a Jesus Girl podcast, where we discuss real-life issues of the committed Christian woman. And I don't know, I'm just enjoying this amazing journey of podcasting. I am so happy to be obedient, because even the stories, interviewing the persons have just blessed my life. Even if you don't bless them, I can tell you, I'm extremely blessed to have the conversation and then to re-listen 2-3 times. Oh, God, this is amazing, But this week, as we are coming closer to the end of the year, I don't know. I just feel like, one, I could not finish the year without having a conversation with this woman of God, right? Two, I'm being biased. So when I was starting the podcast, I made a post to say, who are the persons that you'd want me to interview? And my mother is like, ensure that you have this person on, because she loves her, right? So of course, I'm honoring my mother's request, because the word of God says, honor your parents, right? And ensuring that I'm having this conversation with Reverend Dr. Carla Dunbar. Reverend Dunbar, welcome to the Diary of a Jesus Girl podcast, woman of God.
I am truly honored to be on, Crystal. And Mommy, I'm here for you.
I'm almost sure this is probably the first episode she probably know. I think she said she listened to one episode before, but I'm sure this will be a replay, right? But Reverend Dunbar, listen, if you're in Jamaica, you know the name, right? You know.
Yes.
You're a couple.
Yes.
Or you're married, you know the name, right? We know her as a sex pastor. We know her as years ago being on Ian Boyne's show, being on a religious art talk, talking up the things, just sharing and being honest. I mean, I feel like if I'm probably, because I probably got people that say, well, Crystal, I get late, a bit saved a bit late. That's why you just knew her. But for me, I felt like she was a pioneer with a realness in church. I don't know.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that I've been a catalyst for marriage and relationships in Jamaica and realness in church. So I believe I've heard that too. Last night, one of the religious art talk episodes was being broadcast. I didn't even know. Oh, wow. Somebody texts me after 9 and say, you're on TV. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm at home. But then I turned on. It was one of the episodes. So I did about 4 with Ian Boyne and Religious Hard Talk and then Profile. Yeah. So I'm thankful to God though. No, God has given me a public platform.
Listen, your obedience from your first book to your books. And then I had the amazing pleasure of, just helping her to bring one of her latest books to life, the Couples Devotional. And we get all into that before, but listen, if you're an international listener, and I know that many of you all over the world, you are now being introduced to Reverend Dunbar. Listen, I'm excited about this conversation. I'm ready to get down into the juice of the diary. So, Reverend, in the true form of the Diary of a Jesus Girl podcast, I want you to start with your conversion story. I want you to tell us, who was Carla before she was Reverend Dunbar? What was life like growing up? How did you come to Christ? What was that conversion story like?
Okay, so Carla, I went on my own when I was 13. I am 5 of 6 children, right? And it's 6 children for 5 different men. So you understand what that is, right? That was my mother's choice, had nothing to do with that. I don't know my father, I still don't know him. I'm over 50. I still don't know him. I heard he died. So then my mother had to make a decision to go overseas, as a way of trying to take care of her 6 children who were almost fatherless, because whose father didn't die was in Absentia, right? So she made a decision, and she went illegally too. So when she went illegally, it meant that we don't have a mother. It meant that we buried children when she was able now, after many years, to send a burial once per year. And so I made a decision to just go on my own, just branch out, left the brother and sister story and the surrogate grandmother who was really taking care of us. But at 13, I just thought I knew what I wanted, And so I left home. I went to live with my boyfriend, who is now my husband. And we started life together at 13. Now, he also is the product of one of those broken homes. So he also is the product of his mother was the helper in the home and got pregnant by the house owner. And so he was taken into that home. So, and then the stepmother, who was not a Jamaican, went back overseas after the death of his father. So he had a house to himself, he and his brother, actually. So that's how I went to live with him at age 13. By 14, I was pregnant. I had my first child. By 16, I had my second child, right? Persons know them, Kenisha and Cher. So I had 2 children by the time I was 16. Dropped out at school at 13. He tried to send me back to what was dubbed then a commercial college. That was shortly because I got pregnant with my second child, right? And so here I was being at home, the regular, typical, looking after your children as a teenage mother kind of story. And him now he had left secondary school. It was Buff Bay Secondary at the time. He left secondary school and he started to work in a bakery to provide for us, right? He's very responsible. He has always been responsible. The house can be out of food. That was the kind of person that he was. Never had much education. When he left secondary school, he went to Loyalsville Training Center. They never had heart. We had training center. And he went and did some bodywork thing for car, which never went into anything because he never worked in the profession. So he was working at a bakery to take care of us. So we were living at home. Now, I remember this, Crystal. I remember being at school at age 12 and the principal for Buff Bay High School learning about my relationship with Mr. Dunbar. And she called me up before the devotion one day and for the entire pub devotion. And she told me to desist from going down to him at the bakery. She told me to desist. And naturally that never happened, And so I remember when my mother took a stand at that time and asked a friend of hers who lived in Harborview to come and get me, to take me to go to Donald Quarry High. And I came over and I was there. He found a way to find me over there. So he came over there. And when we journeyed back together, not me and him, myself and the persons who were supposed to be my caregivers, journeyed back to Buff Bay to now get a recommendation from Buff Bay to transition to Donald Quarry High. The principal at the school then, now this is Mrs. Murdoch, said the only recommendation she was going to give me is to go and get married to Nalo. His pet name is Nalo. So we didn't get a recommendation really, because I didn't have a very good reputation in the school. I was a leader for a gang and stuff like that. I was just at 8th grade, right? So, but the truth is I never went back to Kingston with my caregivers because what had happened was I went to Buff Bay that time to get the recommendation, found out that even though Nalo was trekking over to Harborview to look for me, he was involved with somebody over there. And I decided this is it. I have to defend my territory. So I ain't going back. So I just did what we do in those times, find a girl, give her a fine beating, and remained in Buff Bay, right? And so I never went to Donald Quarry High School. And so that was how I stayed, went to live with him now, and then got pregnant at 13. Right? And then
I don't for the conversion because I don't know, like I feel like I'm watching a movie. Here in this story, it's like I'm picturing 13. I'm picturing, being a gang in school. I'm picturing, I'm with this guy at 13 and I'm very adamant, and I'm just, I know, looking at the Carla Dunbar, like the truth is nobody couldn't say, you're a doc. Listen, continue. I'm not interrupt you again. Sorry. And I'm just looking at the grace of God already for your life, but I want to start
grace of
continue.
God, honestly.
Continue.
Yeah. So, so that happened and I decided to stay there. So I got pregnant. And then, it's not like now you have a guide, you have mentor and that kind of a thing. So naturally, I'm pregnant again by the time I'm 15 with my second child, with the first one just being a little over a year or so. So they're a year and a half apart from each other. And that was where that started. And I just continued to live there. My mother came and said otherwise when she could finally come back to Jamaica after papers sorted out and all of that. But I was already doing what I was doing, right? And so that happened. We were just working together. We, however, made some very good commitments earlier on, though, Crystal, is that him from a broken home, me from a broken home, we made a decision. Our children are going to have both their parents. We kind of made that decision. And so when I came from the hospital with Cher, we had a single bed. Now, people understand a single bed is different from a twin bed. You have the nice version these days, a twin bed, which is a little bit bigger than a single bed. We had a single bed. And we had to decide when I came from the hospital with Cher, where the sleeping thing is going to take place. So we decided that Cher is going to go on the bed and we're going to take the floor. So that's what happened. So we started sleeping on the floor, Cher slept on the bed. When Kenisha came along a little year and a half later, two of them on the single bed, head and tail, we still took the floor. This also helped us not to have the children between us. So we slept together, they slept there. Now I want the persons listening on to understand that where I'm at this stage in my life, that for you is a description and not a prescription, right? So what I did wasn't something that everybody should do now. This is a description of my life. It's not a prescription for you to follow, right? So that was what happened. He was working at the bakery. I was at home looking after the girls. When they reached school age, they went to school. I got a job in a pastry shop, washing pots and pans and serving and whatever the case is. And I was just doing whatever I needed to do to ensure that our family was taken care of. At one point, a sister at the hospital, used to have sisters at hospital, and she came and she said she would relieve us of one of the girls because she realized clearly we couldn't take care of them. But then, Crystal, the tin feeding was Olac and Infamil. I couldn't even afford that in a Olac. So my two girls didn't know what tin feeding was like. It was just the cornmeal and the milk powder that you get from the clinic. That was what they knew. And so she wanted to take one of them. And when Nala and I conferred, Nala said, I don't have any puss pitney. Nobody not getting none of them. If it's one banana, we're going to eat them. And so I knew that if I even had it in my mind, I better just take it out because he's not going to be a part of it. And he said, we're going to keep them. So we kept both girls. We were both working to keep them. But let me tell you, the girls, all my kids are the best of school and they never went to a primary school. Not to say that primary school is not bad, but back then you were thinking of the best thing for your children. And so my husband worked hard at the bakery. Sometimes we're just eating bread. Sometimes we're just eating flour and cooking oil. I remember one time I was so hungry, there was nothing to eat that I actually cut the toothpaste tube, not to get toothpaste to brush my teeth, but just to eat some toothpaste to go to bed. So I tell persons I really understand hardship. I really understand going into the bushes under the pear tree and picking up the pears that were on the ground just to get something to eat. But he worked. And if it was that he could only carry home bread from the bakery and he could only carry home flour and we got coconut oil, we used to go to a man named Sabrim and get coconut oil. And that was eating, but we had it. And we were good, right? And so we raised our children. They went to Gideon Basic School, which is a basic school come out of the Brethren Church. And that's what we did. And we raised our kids until, I think when Cher was about 3 years old, he got the opportunity to come to Kingston. He had some family in Kingston. He came to Kingston and he started working at BJ Hannah and Sons Limited, which he still works today. That's like 38 years later. And they put him in the yard to sweep the yard for 2 weeks. So he was there in his shirt and tie, sweeping the yard. He's now one of the senior managers there at BJ Hannah, the sales manager. So, yeah, and so that's how we took care of our kids, sent them to school. Then, and I started working. Sometimes I got dig yam, and one of the things he also instilled in me, I'm not going to leave my children with anybody. So I never had any grandmother to leave children with because my mother was overseas. But the surrogate grandmother we had, Gang Gang, I could have probably left them with her but he wasn't having it. He said, you're going to look after them yourself. He was not into me leaving the kids. So sometimes I had to be lifting up both of them because they were both small. You lift up one, the other one cry. I'm going down the road to buy something. I have to lift up both of them, to take them with me.
Wow.
But
Wow.
we journeyed with them. We journeyed with them, and we had them. We had infidelity, like you spoke to in a relationship. When Kenisha was about 12, I learned that Mr. Dunbar had a son. What more? Right? And that was another story. And so we went through that. I found out about the child. I wanted to meet the child. I told him to bring the child over. And the child came over, spent about 3 months with me in my care, took back the child to the mother. And 1 month later, the mother took back the child to me. So I raised him. He's now about 30 years old. And I've raised him since that time. And so I raised them together. Brandon Lee, the child we had in wedlock, he came 1994 when we finally got married after living together for 13 years prior to marriage, right? And then we finally got married, and I conceived with Brandon on my wedding night and had Brandon 9 months later. And we continue to raise our children with the understanding mommy and daddy need to spend time together. So we spent time together. As long as they were fed, as long as they were okay, we spend time together. That's a practice that's something that I've put into practice. And I'm also teaching couples not to allow children to create space between you two, because you're first a couple before you became mothers and fathers. And so you have to sustain that aspect of your relationship, because if you don't pay attention to each other, you're just paying attention to the children. Then when the children are no longer there, as it is in my case now, all my children are married and stuff, then you'll have when you have that emptiness and you no longer have them, then you're not going to have each other either, because you'd have drifted apart from each other. So during the course of me growing them up and all of that, at 19, I was an avid dancer. So my husband, boyfriend then, didn't like crowds, still doesn't. So, but I would leave and go dance, every dance needed them. Kilimanjaro, Stone Love, Gemini. Yeah, all of them. Put the babies them to sleep, they're gone. Right? By that time, I had taken in one of my sisters, Debbie, who is now a principal in Senan. I had taken her in to live with me. I took in 1 and 2 of my brother and sisters to live with me, because the truth is we had a huge house, it's just that we had rented most of it, and so we only had 1 room. But when we decided to take over the place, we had enough space. So I took my sister. She was living with me. I leave my kids with her. I'm going to dance. So I went to dance, and I became very proficient in the dance industry. So when I was 19, I was crowned by Gemini as the first dancehall queen for Portland. Right? So, yeah. So that was my life before,
Yeah.
But through all of that, and we had many fights, Crystal. I can tell about physical abuse back and front, right? Because he and I used to fight. One, I got dance, coming in until dance done. So dance finish 5, 6-ish, but just exiting the dance because I'm the star. So I'm coming out. He's going to work, because by that time he was working in Kingston. He's leaving out for work at 4:30 a.m. He come look for me in a dance, and a war that I go start. Once he come look for me in a dance, the war going to start. We go and fight. And we fight, and he beat me up, because of course I can't manage him. But next week, if dance, keep me going again. So, the cycle continued. So that was basically for quite a while. That's what it was for quite a while. Honestly, that's really what it was, Our children was going to a Christian school, but that was me. That was where my focus was, right up. I never accepted the Lord until I was 28. Actually, 1994, I got married at 28, right? So while I was still 28, heading into 29, is when I accepted the Lord. And that was because I was ill, Crystal. I was ill. I was seriously ill. A lot of things was happening. I've had some serious bouts with spiritual illnesses, different kind of illnesses. I was having illness coming from abuse as well. So it's a whole heap of thing. And I was just sick. I had breathing issues. I had paralysis issues. I was paralyzed earlier on in my life before. Actually leading into my marriage, I was mentally ill for an entire year. That came about. We went to a dance one night, right? And I was dancing as usual. He came that night too, because it was at one of his cousin's place. He was at the bar drinking, because that's what he did. And I was dancing. And only to find out at the end of the dance, I'm upset because apparently he said I was dancing with somebody else. Not really. I was dancing. I was the star of the dance. I was in the middle of the floor. I was dancing and somebody came and was dancing. And we had a fight that night. Real bad fight. And I came out of that fight mentally ill. Following that, I get up. I think there was some spiritual element to it. And I'd lost my mind. I'd lost my mental faculty coming out of that. I was just lying down there. He came to apologize to me the morning after the whole beat up the night before. And I was just lying there. It was a Sunday, and I didn't forget it. The night dance was a Saturday night. The Sunday I was lying there. And he came and apologized. And I decided I'm not cooking no dinner. We just fight and everything. Of course, me always part not hurting me, me not doing nothing. And so he decided to go down the road to get some stuff for dinner. And I was lying there and I just felt like something fell in my forehead, just very light, like a piece of feather. And that was it, Crystal. I was mentally ill. And I never regained fully composure until a year later. I spent almost after that time, Ward 21 at UA, in and out of Ward 21. I actually, ironically, 2 years ago, I was doing a wedding and I met my psychiatrist who used to treat me, Dr. Leverage. And, he was so excited when he saw me 2 years ago. But yes, and I think he realized as well that there was some element of some spiritual thing happening, because I remember at one point, in and out of my conscious state, subconscious state, I remember him saying to Nala at the time when they took me in, that they must go and find a pastor to pray for me. Because I was being treated with all of the depression medication and all of that. It wasn't making a difference. I was just mad. I was so mad. I was so mentally ill that I chased my girls down with an ice pick at one point. They later told me, I ran them down with an ice pick. My sister told me that I almost mauled her in my stupor, my rage, not knowing what I was doing and all of that. So that was a horrid episode of my life. I almost jumped over the bridge at Buff Bay committing suicide one night. They couldn't find me. So and then after that particular year, there were times in and out of that, like, they say like every summer she gets sick again. So every summer I went off again. So it was like a thing, and out of one of those episodes, when they couldn't find me at one point, I was found one night on the bridge, about to jump over the bridge. But in all of that, Mr. Dunbar stayed with me. In all of that, he continued to provide. He was there as my partner. He never left in everything that happened. And it was while I was mentally ill that he said, he said, if you get me better, if you get better, I'm going to marry to you. He said, Carla, if you get better, I'm married to you. I wasn't very, very coherent in my mind because I was still in my mental illness, but I heard that. Well, I don't know if it's the married thing, but I heard it. I couldn't respond, but I heard it. I don't know if that's why I get better, but I get better. And he married, and he got married to me the year later, a year following. I fully wasn't really there, but we got married the following year in 1993. We got married, and then I had Brandon in 1994.
Boy, like I chat for a living, so I'm really ever speechless. And the sad part of it is not like I don't know the story because I read your books. We have had speaking engagement. We have told the story, but every time I think about the Reverend, was Jesus like. No wonder you have no other option than to be sold out for Jesus.
I have no option, Crystal. You said the right thing. I have no option. I owe everything that I am and have to God.
Man.
Other option. My grandson said something that you said earlier. One of my grandson, after reading the book when it just came out, he said, Grandma, no, you need to find somebody. This needs to be a movie. This needs to be a play. Like, I'm reading it and he said, Grandma, this is so vivid. That this needs to be a play or a movie or something, because I know it has vivid imagery. I know it does. Amazing. But that's it. And then 1994 now, I was sitting sick on my veranda. So I've been to crusades. They make altar call. You know, you feel like you probably want to go, but then, no, I forgot to dance. No, not going to work. You know, no, not going to work. And then one day I was sitting on my veranda. I was having these breathing issues that I have to breathe into the paper bag. I have to breathe in the paper bag. That's what the doctor's instruction. And so I had to be breathing in the paper bag. And I was sitting on the veranda. I was pregnant. My husband and the kids, we live in Portland, so it's near the beach. So they were planning to go to the beach today. And I just felt like I need to go to a church. I just need to go to a church. There was just an impression that I need to go to a church. I don't know which church we're going to come in and go to church. So I look out on the veranda and say, there are going to 2 people that I know go to church. So I see a lady pass and I said, Miss Brown, can you come to church with you tomorrow? She said, no, we have convention in another community. Oh God. And then I saw this lady that I call my spiritual mother. Whenever I'm having on any form of attack, she's there. She's now in the state. And I see her pass and I said, Auntie, can you come to church with you tomorrow? She said, yes. I feel so excited. I feel like, I don't even know. I felt like it was Christmas. I just really needed to go to church. So I said to them, them can go on a beach. Me, I go to church. Crystal, by the time I say, yes, I'm going to church, I start swell. I start swell. My foot down at the ankle and my leg, my thighs are the same size. It's like I just start swell over time. By the time the morning come, I couldn't walk. And Nala said to me, I can't go. I said, listen, if I have to crawl for my hand and my knee, I'm going. So my foot, flip-flop. My foot could not go into a flip-flop. That's how swollen my feet were. Couldn't go into a flip-flop. But the lady came, and she came for me, and I said, I'm going. I have one skirt suit, Crystal, one skirt
one
suit.
look at church outfit.
Tights and what we call baby rider, and so that is what was wearing. I have one skirt suit. Put on the one skirt suit, the lady come for me. My husband at the time wasn't my husband yet. And he was driving. Yes, he was my husband. It was 1994, just the year before. He was driving a ladder. So he packed me up in the ladder, me and the 2 girls, and we went to church. Crystal, I sit down at the 4th bench. The man started preach. Look here, before the man started preach good, I feel like I need to get up and go to the altars. Like there was a weight was on me. Like I have to get up. I couldn't sit still in the seat. So I get up and they helped me that I needed to do, and they helped me and I go up and sit down because I can't walk properly and I come my foot. When I stand on my foot, like going too. But I went up there and I sat down and I just start ball. I start ball and nobody know the but I know my 2 daughters were beside me because them hanging on my fractal up there. They were 13 and 12 at the time, they're not the young, but they came up with me and I know I was there and I was crying. And I felt like I was in a cone, but there's this light beam come down light and I was in it, but I was crying, but I didn't see the picture and I didn't hear them either. All I know is that I was in there and I was crying and I felt like I was going into a dark place, like I was sinking and I cried out, and I said, Jesus, help me. Look here, when that happened, Crystal, I felt like something just goes on the lifting off my shoulder. And when I look up in the roof, I saw the beam of the light going the roof of the church going up. And all I know is that I was just crying. And that was my salvific experience. God, tears are coming to my eyes. And that was my salvific experience at the time. And then the light now was removed from around me and I could see the members of the church. And my daughters then telling me that, Western was not. Everything was just coming out. And that was my salvific experience. That was where it began for me on the 20th of February, 1994. It is unforgettable. I went home now, Crystal, forgot to tell my husband that I make a decision for the Lord. Now, I used to smoke, right? I was an avid smoker, marijuana, cigarette, and I do a 20-pack of Mataran a day and everything. Go up, forgot to tell the man now, say, I get saved, I give my life to the Lord. As soon as I say to him, Crystal, pings and pablos no carry the amount of fabric on my ear. Him tell me expletives long from years ago half a tree. And him get up and him jump in him van and him drive off. And immediately what came to me when I was walking up to go towards the altar, I heard the Lord said, I knew it was the Lord. He never talked to me before. But I heard, cast your cares upon me because I care for you. Remember, I never know scripture, so I must God.
I must God.
And must God. And so I heard that. So me did stop in and look up in the ceiling before I go up there. And I said, God, yes, I must cast my cares on you, but guess what now? You're going to take care of the bunting, coming in at the bunting, come and fight as your queen. So I remember saying that, I said, you're going to take care of the bunting, coming in at the bunting, right? So I continued to the heart of God save. I go home now to tell him, and he told me the expletives, and him jumping in his vehicle and him gone. My first inclination is to go around the corner around Mr. Brown shop and go buy some cigarettes. Me no remember no more the salvation story there. Because him tell me peer better than gone. So me go buy some cigarettes. So I turn down the road now. Right? I hop myself, me a hop for go buy the cigarette. I had learned, no, me no bother send the kids them. I start go down. So I start go down towards the bottom gate. We have 2 gates. And the voice come back and said, didn't I just tell you to cast your cares on me? I'm sit down on the wall and I start ball. I'm a ball. I take my time. I go back in the house. I sit down on the veranda. And we had some neighbors across from us. They were Christians. And I went over there, take my time, I walked, I go over there. And my kids came in, I hold on to Sher and Punky, and I walk over there. I asked them if I can borrow. I heard this song. I need thee every hour most precious. I don't know the song either, so where it come from. So I go over there to them and say to them, say, that song here, may I hear the song? I say, I have one in book or something. And they gave me a sacred song and solo, they loaned me that, and I went back over with my kids and I sat on the veranda. I don't know how long I sat there, Crystal. It may have been hours, just singing the song over and over and over. Half key, of course, I don't know the song, but you follow the book. And Mr. Dunbar drove back into the yard. And when him lock off the engine, Crystal, he was singing the same song. He was singing the same song.
I don't believe you. I don't believe you. The listeners, they must say, I most coincidence. She make up the part of the story.
He said, Crystal, he was singing the same song that I was there singing. I mean, him just driving, lock off the engine, singing the same song, came in, come on the veranda, sit beside me and say, what go on, Mommy D? Like him never just tell me a minute about than gone about his business. And this was the point now where I couldn't say, it's like I never did tell him before. So I tell him now, I said, well, I made a decision for the Lord, I accepted the Lord. And said, him say, yeah, man, a good something that man. I said to me, man, I see man, I just tell the same thing a while ago. And
I can't bother.
Man, they support you and so forth and so on. And that's what it has been. He has been very supportive, though. Everything that I'm going to do at church. And so church became a lab. I go fasting, Crystal. Sometimes I me one go fasting. Sometimes I go down there for go fasting and prayer meeting. The church not open. I find the pastor, yeah, take the key, go in there, open the church, and me one go in there, go have the prayer and the fasting and whatever I'm doing by myself and just leave, and go back home. And so that became my life, and he supported me. But there were times when I'm upset. There were times when him think I was too into church and neglecting him. And so, yeah, there were days, later on down when I started to become a leader. A year after I became saved, I became the assistant youth leader 1 year after. The assistant youth leader. And from there, I matriculated to, becoming director for evangelism and church clerk and lay minister and different things. And so I was very, very involved. Just had a desire to know, to learn. But I was a renegade. I questioned everything what the pastor said and do and all of that. And at my baptism, people were at the window saying that 2 weeks them give me, to turn back. One girl, I know the story was fabricated because I wasn't sure, and she was saying something about me. I doing that very disparaging and derogatory. And she said 2 weeks she'll give me to turn back. And yeah, but I was there and he supported everything I do. Very supportive. But after a while, I think it became too much. And we still were having fight. We never had any more fight. When I got saved, Crystal, is when all physical fight done. Nobody cannot tell me that God doesn't intervene in your life. When I got saved, me and Mr. Dunbar have a big bus out in the kitchen. And it's like, I don't know if he came to hit me, but there was a little rice pot. I can't forget it. And him take up the rice pot, Crystal, and him beat the pot on the cupboard until it bent out of shape. He couldn't put his hand on me. I say him couldn't put his hand on me. I think God never made that happen from that time till today. It has never happened again. So he couldn't. I just believe him couldn't.
Yeah, hold on. So I forgot get some questions, right? Because we want the listeners, we just hear the story and we're just like, okay. So let me ask, how did you get into theological school? How did you, this young lady that done with school from 13, attempted to go back and get pregnant and just make life for your kids, end up back at theological school? Talk to us, because a lot of times you find that believers come into church and they get saved and it's like, and I think God is too ambitious to not like for us to settle. I'm confused. So as somebody that's listening that is sitting on them ambition, talk to us.
Right. So Mills and Boone was what I read, right? And Silhouette Romance. That was it. Mills and Boone, Silhouette Romance. But my kids were going to school. So I would attempt to help them with whatever work they were doing. I figure I never did dance, right? I could have read good. Maths was not my thing. So when they were in now fifth form, about to take CXC, I was reading with them. Prior to that, I was doing what you call it, JSC. I don't know if you remember them, because something you tax office.
Yeah.
Right. So I did some JC.
Subjects.
I realized I never done, come past them. So I said, what I not done? You know, when you pass 6 JC, them time you're bright like corn grain, you know. Look here. A PhD no equivalent to that right now, right? And so that was what I did. And then after that, so I started to read their textbook with them. And I say I did, since me know so done then, let me pay for 2 of the subject then and do it with my kids. And that's what I did. I paid for the subjects 2, did those 2 with my kids. I got those 2. The following year, they had failed some subject. And so I decided to resit with them. And so I enrolled for 2 more while I'm studying back with them. And I got those 2 again, right? And then the following year, I was resitting Human and Social Bio with my daughter at the CXC Center in Kingston. And I actually resat it with her. I got it and she failed. And I got it. So that's how I got those 5 subjects. And I actually, because people were coming to me about their relationship and so in the community, everybody have relationship problem is me. I don't know if it's got me.
True.
From others that come to me. From long time, they come to me about their relationship. I don't even know what I tell them, so, but it seemed to be working. Right? And so I was doing that, and I don't know, I decided I want to be a guidance counselor. Only guidance counselor I know about, right? I never know about family counselor and them something, because guidance counselor was in the schools for my kids. I know about that. So I decided, I thought that this was the way to go. I want to be a guidance counselor. I applied to Jamaica. No, I never thought about all the logistics that you needed, the money and all of that. I just applied. So when I got through, we don't have no money. So
yeah, because your daughters were also
when I have the money.
Transition too.
Right.
To college,
just accepted. And him say you can't go because we don't have the money. So somebody taught me about you can defer. So I deferred. I said, okay, we couldn't go this year. He said, I could see you next year stay, and I can go next year. By that time, I had 2 cousins. They are twins. One of them now is actually in charge of Midland Bible Institute, Shanna and Sherry. Shanna and Sherry were Christian from I know them, like them born Christian. And I'm not know if them sin. And they told me about JTS. One of them told me about JTS and said, why not go there? So I said, but I don't want to go to Bible school like that, you know. But because before that, I had enrolled in the Church of God of Prophecy. We had our own Bible school. We still do now. It is called New Covenant Bible Institute now. But we had it called LDI, Leadership Development Institute. So I went there and I did a certificate course in a year. So I had a little foundation where that is concerned. That was my first graduation, by the way, from anything and anywhere.
And how old were you at that time?
Yeah. And yeah, man, I was married at the time.
How old were you at the time?
At that time, I was in my 30s. Yes. Okay. Because I enrolled at JTS. I enrolled at JTS at 35.
Okay. So it's important that we bring out that part because...
Right, 35. Because
at 35...
From 13, this was to 35 is my first formal education. Because the year before, I did the Bible school at 28. At 32, 33, I did the Bible school. So the year after that,
your first graduation.
Yeah, first graduation.
First graduation. So you're 2 years old for go back to school.
First. Look here, I felt like a patty bag. This is an expression that me and my daughter have. Right? I felt like a patty bag. Graduating from that first institute, right? And then, so I applied at JTS. And I applied at JTS. Now I had some threes, right? So, threes just pass, right? So I had like 2 or so threes. I had 5 subjects. I think 2 of them was 3. I had English in grade 2, both CXC and GC English. So I had English twice. So it's really 5 subjects with English twice. Yes, when I was called in by the registrar, what they wanted to know, so if it was a subject to qualify me to go in, probably I wouldn't qualify because the prerequisite was some grade 2s, and I really had 4 subjects and not 5 because English was twice. So, but they're interested in how did you grow in 7 years to become a pastor? Because when I enrolled at JTS, I was now the associate pastor for the church. They wanted to know how did I transition in 7 years from being saved to becoming all of that and to reach where you are now, taking over the church where you actually were baptized. And I think it was on that premise that I was enrolled, that I was accepted at JTS. Mr. Stroud was very interested in my growth and development. And looking back at the fact that I served as church clerk, pastoral head committee director, evangelism director, youth director for the local church, then youth director for the parish, then regional youth director. And they were just interested in that growth with me having children and all of that. So I was accepted into JTS. Crystal, let me tell you, I enrolled at JTS. I think I was at dunce. Because in the day of introduction, when they were introducing, or we were introducing ourselves, and I was listening to everybody. So I'm Crystal Day, and I'm a graduate of St. Andrew High. And I'm so-and-so, and I'm a graduate, and I'm Carla Dunbar. Full stop. Right? And then I heard a girl say in the class, you were supposed to talk about what you want to be in the future. And I heard this young lady say, in the future, I want to be a forensic psychologist. Look here, information overload. I first hear them word and I'm alive. So me take one book quick. I said, forensic what? It's the first time I heard the word psychologist in my life. Plus it was twin with forensic.
Whoa.
That was like total. I didn't know what that was.
Wow.
So I never heard the word psychology until I went to seminary. I never knew it was a part of what I was supposed to learn. So it was, for me, it was just a whole new world of information that I didn't know. I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know to the formal study and go use library, and then I carry in the library and show you how to do the research. And you know them something there. To this day, me tell you, say, my style of writing was what I started to do at seminary because I couldn't keep up with the graduate of the St. Andrew and the graduate of Queens and the graduate of wherever. So I had to just formulate my own way of how to garner the information and to write my papers. So I just did that. I had a vocabulary book. I had to buy a vocabulary book. I was hearing so many words for the first time. I have to write them down, and then when I'm out of class, I look up the meaning for them so that I can be on par with these people in the class the next day. You understand? And I was enrolled for the first, we was traveling back and forth to Portland. So every day I was traveling back and forth to Portland, and it wasn't working out. It was just too much because I have to go home in the night, see to the kids' homework and all of those things, meet my husband's needs, and then I am up till 3 o'clock trying to do the assignment to leave out again 4:30 the next morning for class. So it wasn't working out, and Nala said to me, try and see how much it is to stay on the dorm. So eventually I got on the dorm, and then I had a nervous breakdown. I don't even know what was happening. I had a nervous breakdown. I just started shaking all over again and going back to the stage where I was before. So I had to sit out for 3 months at seminary because I had a nervous breakdown, and I had to go back to psychiatrist. Ironically, Dr. Sidney McGill that was on last night, his wife was my psychiatrist at the time. She was a Christian psychiatrist. And that is why I think it was important for me to learn counseling from a biblical perspective so I can integrate the word with my faith, you know? And so that's how, so going through seminary for those 4 years, Crystal, trust me, I was in seminary, I was doing the work. I was pastoring by that time. I was ordained now and became the pastor. So I'm no longer the associate pastor. I am now ordained and I'm pastoring from Kingston. I have to go home on Wednesday night to teach Bible study, come back over Thursday morning for class. So I'm running a church. I'm looking after my kids who were in Portland at the time. They were there, and it was just getting to be too much. So after I recovered from the 3 months and came back to seminary, and so it was becoming too much. But I was doing well. My GPA was up and everything. I didn't even know how that happened. I was carrying 3.8, 3.9 GPO, 3.7, that kind of way. Those things were happening. I was getting good grades, A's and B's, B+, and it was just happening, And then I think what happened was one morning, my husband came to the campus. So we don't have money like that, right? So every day I'm giving him my lunch money like a little child, right? So I'm come to the campus gate, call me out in the morning, give him my lunch money. But today, I'm a balance the thing, I'm a pay for the dorm fee, I pay the school fee and everything. And it's one little job on him. So he came one morning to give me the lunch money. I'm going to go across the road to him, Crystal, to collect the money. And when I crossed back the road to go back through the campus gate, my husband said, my wife. And I turned around and he said, once upon a time, my wife used to be my right hand, but now my right hand has become my wife. And he made a sexual motion. And that clicked in my head. And I'm like, oh my God, he's feeling neglected and all of that. So I went upstairs, I went to the registrar and I said to them, by that time, I was president of the student council because my friends saw in me what I never saw in myself. When it was time to run for presidency, they said to me, they text me on my 3310 and tell me that they're going to vote for me for president. I don't know what that entails. I don't know what that is. And they say, yeah, you can do it. I'm like, I don't know them something. I don't know what to do. Because all I know is that I go to PTA meeting for my kids and I'm the secretary for the PTA. Them say, yes, you can do it. So long and short, we had a big election and I was a landslide winner. I win all my final year students. I was in third year at the time, but I win the final year students. I became the president of the student council. So I used my influence and I went up to the registrar and I said, can I get a flat on the campus? I need to move my family on the campus. And they said, no, the flats are for the lecturers, visiting lecturers and so. But I used my influence and I got a 2-room, not 2-bedroom, 2-room on the campus. Well, yeah, 2-bedroom and a living room on the campus. So I moved my husband. I moved my daughter who was then at St. Joseph Teachers College. I moved my 2 sons. One of them was at Meadowbrook High and one of them went to the basic school on Oliver Road, Emmanuel Christian Academy. And so all of us, and my 2 grandsons, because my 2 daughters at that time, one of them was married with a son and the other one had a son. So I moved everybody on the campus in those 2 rooms, moving from, we had a 5-bedroom house in Portland. I moved everybody. So I was balancing the family on campus. I put on the rice, I run going to class, I turn on the stove, I catch the class, I come back, I check the rice, I put on the meat, I run go back into class, and I was cooking. I was managing my responsibilities as a president. I was doing laundry in the middle of the night when all the other students were studying and whatnot. I was doing laundry because I had my family on campus, And so I was balancing all of that. I learned balance from doing that. So I was balancing them.
Oh, that's not a balance. That's a superwoman.
I don't know. Balancing pastoring, balancing that, balancing, yeah. But I was doing it. I remember when I get my timetable, Crystal, I used to go downstairs and retype my timetable and put in Nalo time. Nalo is the affectionate name for my husband. So I extra slot in a night for him. So this night I don't do no schoolwork. And it no matter when I'm going to get it tomorrow. I just make sure that night is his. The kids know that I'm going to spend some time with him. Whenever normally I'm going to win, have no money. But that night, it was just his night. And I learned that was important because I was on campus now and seeing persons who came there married, leaving. And their marriage is in shambles, their relationship is in shambles because they're going after the GPA. And that was important. Yeah. But me did say to myself, look here, it's 2 age, it's the honors and the husband. And me have to choose which one is important. Because I come there with my husband, I intend to live with him. So I had to slot him into my timetable to ensure that he was on my timetable as a thing that I needed to do. And I think it was doing those things that helped me to graduate from seminary with the honors and with the husband. Because every project that I get to do, presentation, group presentation, he was there with me, helping me to make what I need to make. Right now, you go to the library, there's a printing press, the Gutenberg printing press that my husband made for one of my class presentations, and they put it as a model piece in the library. So he was there toe to toe with me. And so I was able to graduate from the seminar, served 2 years as president of the student council, and raised my kids during that time on the campus, and then left the campus and graduated with my honors.
Listen, listen, here's what I want to dispel now, because people will be like, she is, like, that is her. She just have this tenacity and diligence. But at the end of the day, the truth is, we all possess it. It's just that where our priority is. And I don't know, like, I don't know. It's just so amazing to see how God's grace just took you through all of this. So we're going to kind of fast forward because we're almost at the hour. I'm not going to lie, I don't want to stop listening. But I want to ask you some, just some questions specifically, and as lady, you just answer. I want you to first talk to the woman that is not saved, kind of feel like, okay, I'm not quite, I want to get baptized, but I'm not quite sure what's going on. I'm not quite ready yet. I want you to first talk to her, that girl, woman first, in a few minutes.
So it is never a readiness, honestly. It's a knowing what you have to do. Priority is important. Everything in life is important, but not everything of the same importance. And for me, yes, it was sickness that took me there, because sometimes that's something I have to take me there, right? So I saw the need for God. I felt like I was going to die, and I did it. But the truth is, it's priority. It's just like, I needed to, when my husband come to me and I realized that, look here now, what going to happen is more infidelity. So I needed to have him in the same space with me. I couldn't go to Portland, so I had to have him there. Your salvation is important, because at the end of the day, the shortest part of your life is lived on this earth. The longest part of your life is going to be after you die and you are resurrected, or after the rapture. And so you have to now prioritize the fact that, what do you want to happen? Where do you want to spend your long eternity? And make a decision based on that. Now, you could be living with your man. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, my grandmother used to say, every tub sits on their own bottom. And so at the end of the day, you are going to have to give an account for your life. So how important is your life? Are you going to allow, because of you in a relationship with a man, that you jeopardize a future that you could have with Christ, the giver of all good gifts? Because as you heard me say, we never know nothing about academia and those things. It was after salvation. The Lord says him beautify the meek. It was after my salvation I learned that I had potential. Woo. So much potential.
Woo.
God showed me my potential after I got saved. I never knew it before. Before me, I danced down the place and all of that. Right? So God showed me my potential after I got saved. Who could have said that I could come from where I am and go study? I didn't know that. So after I got saved, then God showed me that I could apply to college. Right? Then he showed me that. Then God aligned people, because God aligned my cousins at the time to tell him to point me to seminary. Because remember, God says, according to Jeremiah 29:11, he has great plan for your life. So he knows already how him structure your life. But you need to come into this awareness.
Yes.
And the only time you come into this awareness is when you come into a relationship with Christ. Because only when you come into awareness of who he is and what he has for your life, can he be able to know by his Holy Spirit direct you. So you're not saved and you're thinking, boy, that's easy for you saying, miss, because you did so and so. So listen, all of us are coming for that place, and everybody have a story.
Yes.
Everybody have a story, We are all products of our past, but we are not prisoners to our past. I could stay stuck in that past. I'm a girl who was born in Jonestown, and I don't have a father, and I'm a barrel child. I could stay stuck with that story and say, boy, this is it, so the system set. But no, God showed me my potential. Hallelujah. And God has planted potential in each of us. There's deposited a seed. But we have a responsibility to nurture that seed and to cause that seed to grow. You understand? Because I tell people who I am today is a gift from God. It's God's gift to me, And I only enhance it by studying. So the counselor was in me all along, Crystal. The counselor was planted in me all along. I just never knew it.
Woo.
That is, people identify your gift before you identify. That's why people were coming to me before I became a counselor, because they saw something in me. They saw the counselor in me. And so they came and they were coming and they were pulling it out. That was helping me now to see myself and to see who I could become. So I'm saying to you, you're out there and you're thinking, boy, that is you, that is Crystal, on a thing set and all of that. No, we all came from a very basic place.
Yes.
Right? We came from a basic place, but our knowledge of God, it enlightens our darkness. It helps us to see who we are, whose we are, and who we can become in Christ Jesus. So you just have to put your best foot forward. You just have to think if this is all you want out of your life. And if you know that there is more in you, whatever it is, if you're a nail tech, if you're what, just do it at the best at your ability. If you know that this is what you want, there's more that you want. I would say submit your life to Christ. Because when you submit your life to Christ, you get direction. You understand? He speaks to you. He directs your life. He carries you into the plan that he always had for you, that you didn't yet come into until you came into him, for him now to show you this is it. And then he opens up a whole new world.
Yes.
And he shows you can now walk into it.
Ah, Jesus. Yes. Wow. All right. Dr. Dunbar, I want us to get into the infidelity. So a lot of women, one in Jamaica, and I'm sure internationally, have this, how do you deal with infidelity? How do you, most persons would have said, boy, walk out. Why should never walk away, after, like, okay, forgive him 2-3 times, but why should he not walk away? Should I sit in an abusive relationship? I want you to kind of dispel some of those questions that people are raising, and I know you're in the spirit, so you know the questions that are being raised by some of our listeners right now, right? So dealing with infidelity and etc. Talk to me.
Okay, so first of all, I have zero tolerance for abuse. Coming from my own abusive relationship, I have zero tolerance for abuse. I now know better that I'm not to sit around and make a man beat me. I know that at the first sign of that, I'm to get somebody formally in. So I am to either go and call my pastor, you go somebody that is respected by both of you as a couple, and just get somebody else in, because a man or a woman will be less likely to be abusive if they know that somebody else knows. Right? So I'm saying from the get-go. But I didn't know that at first. And so I stayed because of that. God is good to me, and God has been good to me. Right? So I would say to you, no, don't sit in an abusive relationship. Report it. Report it. You don't have to report it formally. So you don't want to go to the old police station story or whatever. We have domestic violence centers now across the island. I'm a justice of the peace. I have responsibility on the parish consultative committee for domestic violence and child abuse. I'm on that committee. And so I know that domestic violence centers are in Kingston. One is at the Constance Stream Police Station. One is on Matilda's Corner. They're across Jamaica. They are across the world, wherever you are. Once you are abused, make it known to somebody else. Make it known to somebody else so that your partner who is abusing you can know that you are not the only one who knows. Somebody else knows and will intervene, right? And so that the cycle of abuse can stop. So you nip it in the bud so that he or she knows. And I notice I'm saying he or she knows, Crystal, because I've been in this, I've seen men who are abused as well. Some of them, most of the time, are verbally abused because our women are very vocal, right? And because sometimes our men are marginalized a lot, so women, are academically advanced. And so we use our mouth is our power. So make it known once abuse starts in a relationship. Report it. Talk to a couple, talk to a person that is respected by both of you, a pastor, somebody. Report it to somebody else and make your partner know that you have told somebody else so that somebody else knows. That will help to stem that abuse, for that person to think about the next time they know what's going to happen. And they really don't like the embarrassment. It's really a power struggle thing, but they don't like it. So that can happen. Infidelity happened in my relationship. Like I told you, when my daughter was 12 years old, I found out my husband had another child. But even before that, we had so much infidelity. He was, but I was always just beating these girls, so them kind of afraid of me like that, right? But then after that, when I found out about that, and I never used to report that because I never knew better at that time. But when I found out about my stepson and everything, by that time I was a Christian. Was I a Christian? No, I wasn't a Christian when I found out about him, But I dealt with it in different ways. But I'm saying to you now, from a counselor's perspective, you need to report it. You need to tell somebody so that it stops. And yes, you can have a good relationship after infidelity. So, says my husband and I, no, going over 40 years, right? We are still together because we had made commitments. Our relationship was really based a lot on our commitments that we made, Crystal, not on love. On the commitment that we made. We made commitments to our children, right? And we stuck with those commitments. And then we grew to love each other more and more and more till we love each other bad now, right? But you can matriculate from infidelity into a good relationship, because I have seen where some relationships actually gets better. That's not a prescription again, it's a description. But I've seen where actually a relationship gets better after you have worked through an infidelity issue, because you are now more aware that you need to pay attention to your partner. Your partner is now more aware of what he or she does that can hurt you and affect you and impact how you will relate in the relationship. You will now have accountability of each other after you have gone through a process of treating with infidelity. Because when I'm treating with infidelity, I have reenactment theories that I utilize in my session to help persons to talk about how they feel when they heard about infidelity, how you feel after the infidelity and stuff like that, so we can work through it. And truth, one of the things that happens in relationship, I know we're not doing relationship today, is that there's too much lie. Like we don't talk the truth about how we feel in relationships. So your spouse say you're good, you feel, and you say, yeah, you're good. You're not good enough, but you say you're good. And the cycle continues. No, talk truth. Talk how you really feel in the relationship. And that's why it's important to get a third party in, like myself, who's a specialist, who can help you to see the blind sides and help you to maneuver this period of going through the hurt, the betrayal, the rejection of the infidelity, and to help the partner who has committed the act of infidelity to understand that they have created a wound that they need to dress. They need to treat it. Because when I found out now about my stepson, and my husband, by that time, realized how much he had hurt me, he started to dress the wound. So he took steps to break off the relationship with his child's mother. He took steps because the child's mother now brought the child to me. I made the initiation to bring the child in. He respected the fact that I took the child. I'm not saying everybody must take children. I'm just saying what I did. So I took the child. So he made steps. When I now started to formulate a relationship with my stepson mother, my husband cut it off. He didn't want me to have no dialogue over there. And I used to have her coming by the house to visit her son. Him stop her. So he was doing things to make me feel secure again. He was saying, I am done with that aspect. So me don't want you to have nothing to do with it. You understand? Even though I felt differently. So he took the steps to treat the wound that he had created in me. And that's what partners need to do. You have created a wound by being unfaithful to your spouse. Treat the wound. Don't believe that and then my husband understood that, not because him cut it off, it don't mean that I heal. Because I'm not healed, I'm still hurting from the rejection, but from the betrayal, from all of that. But he took the steps, and then having the understanding now that he needs to be accountable to me. So when we not see him come home at a certain time, my trust issues are go, I am insecure. I'm going to be thinking about where he is. I wonder if I'm over there. Accountability, So he would say, Carla, may I stop her so-and-so, or me there so, or he's late coming on. He would let me know. So those things help me to feel a little secure again. That was not the last act of infidelity, though, Crystal. He was unfaithful again after I became a pastor, right? So we still had that to deal with again. I had to choose to trust him. Yeah, I had to choose to trust him.
And to forgive him.
Yes, I had to choose to forgive him. It's a choice. I had to choose to forgive and plan to forget, so that I don't carry it on with me all the time. I had to choose to trust him again. I remember one day after I had found out about the other relationship when I'm now a pastor, you know. And my plan to beat the girl and it was going to make X news. That time the paper was X news. And my plan to beat her, I'm a pastor now, you know. But I'm beat her. And I know it's going to make X news. And the Lord said to me to go on a fasting. And I went on a fasting. I was going to do 5 days. And one of my friends said to me, I do 7. And I do 7 days fasting. At the end of that 7 days, my husband came and confessed. Right? And he asked me to pray for him and to lead him to Christ. And I never believed one word what him say. But I knew how to lead him to Christ. I know the prayer. It was just automatic. I could say, and I'm a sinner and I'm now saved, whatever, and I asked you to come into my life. I'm going to just lead him in the prayer. I didn't know he was serious. And he gave his life to the Lord. Right? And I baptized him 3 months later. Right? But he was treating that wound that he had created. Right? In the first half, he was treating that wound. And then he became unfaithful again. And then we had this time we had to go to a counselor. This time I knew now you need to see somebody. So this time now we started to, see another pastoral colleague who was also a counselor. He helped us to restore back our relationship. And that's why I said to persons, it's important. You might not think that, you don't need no counselor to tell me nothing. But listen, God put everybody in this world for some reason. Everybody on the face of the earth has a potential that will benefit livity on the earth. And so we need to know, if you're a janitor, if you're a housekeeper, whatever, everybody, as diverse as we are, we make up the full complement of how the world revolves. And so we need to understand that everybody is important to some aspect of your life. When God says in Peter that he gives us everything that we need for life and godliness, that's what he means. He gives us everything that we need. And so some of what we need is in these people. You understand? These other persons. So we had to see a counselor. Eventually we had to see a counselor. We had to go to somebody to help us through our relationship. You understand? At that time I was a pastor aspiring to be a counselor.
Yeah. So 2 more questions, because I'm not gonna lie. Once me come in your presence, I just want to ask enough questions, because the wisdom of God is just upon your life, and that is the truth. But I want you to possibly and very briefly just talk a little bit about as a believer dealing with an unbelieving husband, spouse, not even just husband, but spouse, any just encouragement for somebody, that a woman that's listening, that are a man, but mostly women tend to be in these kind of relationships that are unbelieving. So tell us, but they are married already.
Okay.
So
this is kind of like a theological challenge, because some years ago, I always had the understanding of do not be unequally yoked with an unbeliever. And I had always believed, Crystal, that it means that as a Christian, you mustn't be with an unsaved person. Right? That's what I always believed. About 5 or 6 years ago my office was at Eden God, so it probably was about 4 to 5 years ago. Lady came to see me, and she was explaining to me that she has been in a church from she was a child. She has never been able to find a spouse because all the persons that were attracted to her were unsaved persons. And while I sat at my desk listening to her, it's like a light bulb went off in my head. And I must let you know this. If God gives you a task to do, he's going to equip you with the tools. And I remember Bishop Leslie Bear saying to me at one point, when I interpreted a scripture, and it was on the basis of marriage. And he said, well, bless my days. I have been preaching from that scripture for over 37 years. I never got that interpretation, Carla. But him say, you know what? God gave you that interpretation. He had to equip you with the knowledge to do what you're doing. So, and light bulb go off in my head. And right away, 2 scriptures that I always know came to me, Crystal. And one said, in 1 Peter 3, verses 1, wives, conduct yourself in such a way that if the men are not won by your words, they'll be won by your conduct. The word one, the Lord said to me at that time, to the lady, if the man was already one, why would he need to be one? And in the second scripture was the sanctified wife saved the husband. So if he was already saved, why would he need to be saved? And that does pop like a light bulb. I'm saying to the lady, so the person she was seeing at the time now, this is in her 60s, was still unsaved. And she said, why is it that he's always unsaved when I'm attracted, that are attracted to me? So I said to her, is this person a gentleman? She said, yes. He opens the door. He pulls out the chair. He carries her bag. She invites him to church. He comes. He's just unsaved. And so she said, so I said to her, so who tells you that this may not be the person that probably you are to be married to? She said, but he's unsaved. But I say, but if he's already saved, why would he need to be saved? So I said to her, this has now given me a different understanding of this whole unequally yoked kind of story. I am not showing out what we have been taught, that because an unbeliever complicates your life as a Christian. It complicates your life because it's two different masters you're serving, right? You're going after two different goals, I suppose. So it complicates your life because you're going in the direction of Christ and you're going in another direction. So it really does complicate your life, and it really would be better to be married to or be seeing somebody who is saved, because at least you think your goals, you're going into compatible areas. But the truth is, there are a lot of men and women who are spouses who are unsaved, but they are believers. They believe in the same God. So when I did my study back, I realized that an unbeliever is back in that context. A believer is somebody who doesn't believe in the same God that you believe in, right? So if you're a Christian, why would you go and have a relationship with a Muslim? You know, if you are a Christian, somebody who's a stark Rastafarian and practices Rastafarianism, why would you go there? Because that is going to create a problem, right? But there are men and women who are out there who believe in the same God that you believe in, but they are not yet saved. I am not saying that you should go there and do it, but if you have a spouse that is unsaved and you are feeling like you're on a guilt trip because the church says, I want to help you to understand that that relationship could work, because it is the grace of God that is meted out to all of us. The person is not yet saved, but the persons have shown signs where you can pray together because the person believes in the Lord. You can go to church together because the person believes in the same God. They just have not yet had a salvific experience, right? And with some guidance and with some understanding, because especially if it's a man that's unsaved, men will not be force-fed your Christianity. They are created as figures of authority. And you don't bother to go hook up with them and think that you can save them, because you cannot save them. And you could preach until Christ come, because my husband, I prayed for him for 10 years for his salvation. And all the preacher was preaching to me was not listening to me. And one day the Lord said to me, stop preaching to the man and live the life of a virtuous wife. And I had to question God, because at that time when God said that to me, I was a pastor. So I said, God, how much more virtuous can I get? I'm already a pastor. But then he showed me some little things about some little character flaws, some little things that I would not do, that expounded 1 Peter 3 verses 1 to me, where we understand that men are not necessarily going to listen to our words as females, but they watch our actions. Because that's what God says. Even if they're not won by your words, they'll be won by your actions, your conduct. And so it was my conduct when I allowed God to change a little gray areas in me. And Mr. Dunbar started seeing those little gray areas that I didn't know matter. Like, I cook dinner 2 o'clock today and I'm not coming till 2 a.m. tomorrow morning. I'm not sharing it. I don't know where you're coming from. And when the Lord says, share it, I'm going to get up on 2 o'clock and say, you want a dinner, and share it. It was those little changes in me that Mr. Dunbar watched. And those were what brought about the change in him. So it is when I found out about the infidelity, him say, if I can come with him to go tell the girl, say him tell me, man, about that man here sick in his head. Because like him not hear me say me I go beat the girl. And him want me to follow him now, go tell the girl, say him decide, say him accept the Lord, that him want to change his life. It's 3 times we stop on the junction and pray before we reach down, you know. Because I know me I go beat her for see her. And when we finally went down to his workplace, because she worked there, and I presumed to start to say to her, say, why you do that? And she started go all up on herself like,
yeah, I did.
No, my answer get nimble crystal.
Ooh,
no, my answer get
imagine.
nimble. And my husband stepped in and he said, I told my wife. And the girl, easy down. And at that place, God could allow me to hold the 2 of them hand right there and pray with them. It was my actions that won my husband and not my words. So we wives and ladies, understand that it's not your words that is going to win over the men if there are unsaved men in your lives. It is your action. They must see Christ in you, not see you as Christ. Because sometimes we are Christian and we want to act like we are Christ. But I used to do it too. I used to hang up Mr. Dunbar clothes, and when we come from church with a word, I tell him the word, and I tell him which part of help reserved for him. And God says, it's not your word, because that is wasting gunpowder and blackbird, because he never listen. But the time when he cheated on me after I became a pastor and God sent me on, and we went to a hotel and God said I must minister to him that Sunday morning. And I ministered to my husband from the book of Jude. It was like I had a live audience. It was just him alone in the hotel room. And when I talked to him from the book of Jude, he sat down like he was in church. And he listened. That was when God told me to minister to him with the word. And I ministered and he listened. But it was my actions that won over my husband. So ladies, 1 Peter 3 verses 1 must be a lifestyle. It must be your conduct that is going to show these men the Christ in you. So they don't see you as Christ trying to tell them what they need to do, and they need to do, and they need to come to church, and they need to read the Bible, and they're not going to listen to you because they are figures of authority. They listen to Christ. But your actions based on the word of God will, because the Bible says when they observe, see with their eyes, your chaste conduct, coupled with respect of them, then they will turn. And so you need to just do that. Make your actions speak.
Listen, wow. So the final question, and this is probably me being biased, but guess what? It's my show, so may I be biased and take my counseling session, right here live. So you transition from being, just completing school and deciding to become a counselor. So my bias question is based on becoming Carla Dunbar, the brand, because separate from a part of you serving the church, you write books, you have your own ministry. I love coming into your office space. I don't know. When I come there and visit, there's just the presence of the Holy Spirit. I feel there when I'm there. But building a business in Jamaica is just not easy, So tell us, just for the entrepreneurs, some of the coaches that are listening, some of the counselors are listening, and me as still a budding entrepreneur, give us some of those, just tips on the whole business aspect and, just maintaining and growing. And listen, people, may I talk our business like the lady by her husband a car. It was Christmas or New Year's.
Christmas gone.
Listen to the woman buy her husband a brand new car. It means she could afford to buy. And listen, the man deserve. Hello, the woman said the man take care of him family.
Trust me.
And the woman buy her husband. I like it. I love it. I probably never tell you, but I did like yes, right. I was so just amazed about that and just proud of who you are and what you represent. So yeah, talk to us about that like entrepreneur thing. And this is because me I be biased. I'm more here from myself.
That again was God's direction in a Crystal. When I graduated from seminary, in my final year, when we were about to graduate, everybody was sending out resumes and things. So me sit down at the computer and I put resume together too. And the Lord said, you cannot take a secular job. I feel like somebody talked to me behind me. I'm like, what do you mean? What you say? I can't take a secular job. So I don't understand that. I send out my resume too because everybody, that's why. When I was going to seminary, my husband asked me why. He asked me why I want to be a pastor. I couldn't explain that to him, of course. And he said to me, pastors get paid. Now in our dinam, it wasn't about getting paid. It was based on the tithing. They would stipend you. So I said, not really. So I said, so why you want to become a pastor? Why you going to train to become a pastor? And I said to him, well, that's why I have you, because you support me. I was being very facetious. But him said, okay, I see. And so when that final year come out, everybody has sent out them application to different places. God will tell me, so me can't send out no application because me must go in a full-time ministry. I said, no, that no work. Because I did tell Mr. Dunbar that I am going to get this first degree so that I can get a job to help him to provide. And him pay for the 4 years. And so it's full-time now for me to help him provide. And no, God has said, me can't take the job. But I'm a person that I question God a lot and me rebellious too. Right? So I was rebellious and I said, God, it not going to work. But at the same time, I always go back in and look at corner and say, all right, God, anything what you say. When him corner me, because I'm always corner me. And so he told me that. To the extent that I now graduated and I am a full-time pastor. And one day, Mrs. White, Blossom White, I can say her name on your podcast. I see her as a mentor, even though I wasn't ever mentored. But she's the first person that saw something in me. She was one of my lecturers. And I remember she came to me one day and she said, Carla, I wanted to produce a show. Me no know what producer mean, Crystal. Me never hear the, me no know what it mean. So I go back to my friend and I say, Mrs. White, so she want me to produce. What do you mean by producing? But them brighter than me, so them send come tell me what it mean by producing. She just tell me that and she said, be ready for June. Like she tell me that April and she said, be ready for June. So I said, but so I find out what producing mean and so this time it was family time. It used to happen on RGR. That's the Family Life Ministries program. So she wanted me to be the producer. So when we find out what producing mean, that it means I must find the guests and we must set the question and so when June come and she come back to me, I'm ready. I have my questions ready for the program and everything like that. And so I became the producer for Family Time on RGR. 3 months into that, she came and she said she want me to co-host. You know, me lick my head. So I started to go on air now on RGR, and my co-host at that time was one of the counselors at Family Life Ministries, and so I became the host, co-host, and the producer. She saw in me that I could do communications and public speaking. So she would come to me and say, Carla, I want to go and speak down at that school. She not tell me nothing more. No, she just say, they want somebody to speak. And it's me, she said. So that's how my public speaking started, you know, and I give thanks to Blossom White, you know, and I've said it before, I think she mentored me, even though she didn't formally do it. And so that's how that started. And then I started I'm preaching. At English language is something that I think I have very good command of from a longer time. And so I'm very prolific at that. And so I was a great preacher, preaching and doing my presentations. I always get A. I never know how that come about. That must be God again. And so I got A's in my subject. And so that started, the public speaking started from there. And I decided to, after exiting seminary, now to enhance what I had by doing further studies. Now, sex developed at seminary too. I was intrigued as to why nobody on the Christian campus not saying the word? Like it's such a taboo, something. So I just took it as a joke, and when they gave me a paper to write, I make sure my itchy team, you know, so they gave me a paper to write a Caribbean theology. I write a Caribbean theology of sex, because me doesn't know why nobody not talk about it, and because I was very involved, you know, so I just wrote it, and then my lecturers were so taken aback by my papers that they encouraged me to write my final paper looking at the matter. So my final paper was looking at the attitudes and perceptions of Christian couples towards sex as worship. And so it developed from there. And the Lord told me I can't take a job. So I was at home one day. Mrs. White called me. She said, Carla, I have a job for you. Grace Kennedy needed a social worker. Now, mind you, I wasn't trained as a social worker. But she saw everything in me that said that. Because what I did was a bachelor's in theology, minors in guidance and counseling. And by some miracle, I managed to do a minor in pastoral studies at the same time. So I did 2 minors. And that, even though I sat out 6 months from school. So I listened to her, and she told me the salary. Let me tell you something. That salary sounded like a millionaire to me at that time. But I heard myself saying, I'm sorry, I can't take the job. I'm sure in me said, Crystal, I saw me in me said, I can't take the job, Mrs. White. But I made a recommendation for one of my other colleagues who had graduated with me for the job. So Dunbar was in the room. So when I hung up the phone, I don't know if he heard the other end of the conversation. He said, Carla, where you do a while ago? And I say, I couldn't take the job. And I'm like, oh, you finna take the job. But I know I couldn't take it because the Lord said, He called me into full-time ministry, so I couldn't take it. So I knew that I couldn't take a secular job. And so out of that, and persons were coming to me still then, even though I didn't have the full couple that I was trained now as a bachelor's degree and stuff. And I was doing some other small courses elsewhere. And then whenever any seminar training came up with Family Life Ministry, so I'm doing it and stuff like that. And then I decided that I needed to go and get formally trained in this area. And that is when I enrolled for those things. And I decided that I can't take a secular job based on what the Lord said. I'm a pastor. So what can I do? And so the gift is in me to counsel. So that's what I'm going to do. So I just decided to, we had an auto parts shop in Portland, and there was a little office in there. And so I just started counseling from the office. When people come to me, they'd come to buy at the shop, but they also come to the office for counseling. And that's how I started. And then I went on to further studies and got my matriculation and decided that I had a home office, 2-time home office. And then I started out with getting an office at Principal Plaza. And then from Principal Plaza, I had to go back home again. and do a home office while I was living in Hammer Heights. And then my daughter, who was managing Eden Gardens, tell me that, they have available space and so on. So my office came at Eden Garden and I built it. It wasn't easy. When you start out as a young entrepreneur, you have to have money to cover bills for the first 6 months because the money not turning like that. But I can tell you something. Anything that God is in, he makes the provision. God made it so that I was able to pay my rent. I was able to employ a secretary, and I did so. I employed somebody from my church, right? And I was able to meet the bills, not having profit and all of that. But I kept at it. And then when Ian Boyne located me, right? I was in Portland at the time. At that time I was in Portland, and he wanted somebody from the clergy to speak to 6. And he called seminary, they pointed him to me. The rest is history. I became known nationally. And so I was speaking here, there, and wherever. I didn't have a set fee to charge in those days because I never knew how to organize that. But as I grew, I knew how to streamline that. I listened to the advice of other persons. I would bounce my ideas off other persons that I thought were older than me and knew better. And I eventually learned, and my daughter has a good business head, and I eventually learned how to create what I needed to create to streamline my ministry. I still call it a ministry. It provides a ministry that provides a service, right? And it was doing something that I was passionate about because I'm passionate about marriage and family. So that became, that's my gift, making room for me, and became the thing that pushed me into now where I can earn and I am taken care of then I got internationally recognized till I was invited to,
the White House, in front of
so yeah, it is God, but God makes a way. You listen to other people. Now we call it coaching. Back in the day, I never known about coaching, right? But I learned. Yeah, well, it's true. We never know. It's now coaching becomes so, but back then it wasn't coaching. A little bit of mentoring was coming on street, and there were elders, there were pastors and counselors and professors and lecturers at JTS that I looked up to. And so I would ask them, they would, coach me along. I go to them, for advice. And that's how I grew into what I'm into now. And as you would have known, at the end of the month, I'm launching the Gym Academy and the Gym Ministry. And that's just again to help. It's still my gifting, just expanding.
Hallelujah. Hey, listen, Reverend, I just want to thank you for this conversation. This is so amazing. I feel like going into, as we are now, in November, we're preparing for the new year. And yes, a lot of things have gone, but you have truly, I know that I'm encouraged more than ever. And I'm looking forward to February, because February is going to be Love Month on the podcast. God's willing, we're alive, we're in our sound, mind, and all of that. But I'm looking forward to talk about the sex, the marriage, the whole everything. But I want to encourage, I'm going to leave the link so that you can follow her. You can buy her books. I mean, I have read her first book, or autobiography or memoir, Change the Journey. Amazing book, got even more vivid in everything that's going on. Of course, endorsing the couples devotional. That's definitely an amazing subscription. I now read my own subscription, but maybe just close it back. I want to get thirsty and lead to go do things I don't want to. So I just leave subscription by itself till my time.
Yes. But I want to encourage you to, Crystal, because Jim, the launch of Jim, the first course, one of the things I learned, Crystal, is that in doing marriage counseling now for going 10, 15 years, I realized that some people coming to me for marriage, they're not ready. So I have the premarital, which is my On Your Marks package, right? It's a booklet that I have not published, but I created an On Your Marks booklet that I use for premarital. But some people never reach premarital yet. So that is why I decided now that the first course I'm going to teach in the gym as soon as the gym is launched, the first course to start on the 28th of October is going to be an MRI. It's not a brain surgery, right? But it's MRI. It's a marriage readiness intelligence, right? A marriage readiness because you need to know if you're ready for marriage before you go take premarital counseling. Know if you're ready to give up your personal space. your singleness, your nice time where you can carry yourself out. Know if you're ready to take on somebody in your space. You're ready to share your money with somebody. You're ready to share your bed with somebody. You're ready to take on somebody's responsibility. Because when you take on a married person, you take on a responsibility. If Mr. Dunbar want to get rid of me, I forgot to gazette me. Understand? So because better, if I go out there and I create a bill, he is going to pay it because I'm married to him. I'm saying, are you ready to take on all of that? You should know. So I'm going to teach that marriage readiness intelligence from a physical perspective, of a social, a mental perspective, an emotional perspective, and a spiritual perspective. Your readiness is important. You have to do 4 years to get a degree. Right now, Jamaica say you have to have a learner's license 2 years before you can get a driver's license. So if you have to prepare for these physical things, why shouldn't you prepare for marriage? So the MRI is the first course. You should sign up for it, Crystal.
Listen, I'm not even asking. This is a Christmas gift to myself.
Yeah.
When I talk a while ago, I say, boom, I have to go cook every day. Know.
Yeah.
So any single woman that is listening, I'm definitely leaving that because this is my Christmas gift to myself. Am I really ready? But this is an amazing conversation. I can't wait to chat to you again. I'm going to leave all the links, but please, again, I just want to thank you for your obedience. Thank you for your encouragement. Thank you again for this amazing conversation. Listen, if you're listening to Diary for Jesus Girl podcast, I don't know. I feel like I'm going to just get a full-fledged counseling session and if I just go and sign up for something that she's offering. Because this woman of God is obviously gifted to in the area of family relationship, marriage, and the whole work. So I really want you to reach out, let her know that you heard her on the Diary for Jesus Girl podcast. Probably she go say, you and I look at it, I know, I'm just a say. But she know what say.
And Crystal, I must just say this to you, trainer, because I remember one time I called you to talk to you because I believe that what you have is a gift. I believe that you have is a gift from God, in business coaching. And that is why I reached out to you as well to say, I want to sit with you. I remember reaching out to you before, but I just couldn't find it. And I said, I want to sit with you because what you have is a gift. And I believe that you could have also showed me too how to streamline what I was doing because I probably didn't know all of the business.
Yeah, man. When you get a course all over the world.
Yeah, I was more into the ministry than the business. And I thought that you had something that's very, very good. You're very prolific. You're good at what you do. And I'm also saying this, so make sure that this part is edited into the podcast. That what you have is a gift from God. No, don't play.
Thank you.
And your gift must make room for you. And I believe that you have something that you can help other Christian entrepreneurs to know how to streamline the gift that God has given them and make money from it.
Amen.
Because your gift must make room for you.
Thank you. So again, thank you. Please join us next week for another amazing episode of the Diary for Jesus Girl podcast. So we only interview real people, nice people, clean people who love Jesus, but yet we still try and navigate this world because in our diaries we taught the truth. And thank you again for listening to this episode. God bless you.
Diary of a Jesus Girl. Jesus Girl. Hey, it's the Diary of a Jesus Girl.